Get full access to over 10,000 episodes with your paid subscription. MyOutdoorTV. Start your free trial today.
These are the great wing shooting destinations of the world. Steeped in tradition. Offering the pinnacle of shotgun sport. Tour the planet with us.
Hi, I'm Chris Batha and welcome to Stockholm, Sweden, often referred to as the Venice of the North. It is a land of lakes, rivers and streams and home to some of the finest duck shooting in the world.
Located in the Baltic region of Europe, Sweden has a different feel depending on where you visit. From the Danish influence in the southwest to the Arctic north home of the Laplanders. From the urban areas featuring modern style and sophistication to the slower, more tranquil lifestyles of the countryside. Sweden has something for everyone. To the wing shooter, it's that countryside that holds the greatest appeal. A land filled with forests and thousands of lakes. Prime habitat for some of the best duck hunting in the world.
I had an invitation to come to Sweden to shoot ducks and it was irresistible. The fact that I'd never been to the country before and I never had any idea of how the ducks would be presented and the format and also the type of shooters I'd be joining. So a little bit of intrigue and a lot of curiosity.
Arriving at the airport in Stockholm, Chris makes the 2-hour drive to Katrineholm and Klosterp Castle and Estate. Klosterp has been in the family of the original owners since the 15th century.
The owners have been here since 1434, as far as we know. And what's even more interesting is that it's never been sold. It's always been handed down or given. Given when there have been no children, they have then given it to a nephew or a niece or something like that.
To visit a place like Klosterp is special. To hunt here, truly amazing. The chance at an unlimited number of birds in a variety of settings, blinds, and cover.
The difference is that the Americans go out, often camouflage, waders, decoys, and call the ducks in, and they're shot at fairly close ranges over the decoys because literally they're carrying out the old American system of meat gathering. They're actually hunting for the pot. Whereas in Europe it's always been a sport, and the ability to shoot well has been of great social standing for several hundred years.
Good morning, everyone. Very welcome.
This is the tradition of duck hunting in Sweden.
Each drive will start with a signal. So there will be no shooting before that signal.
From the plan, to the guns, to the clothing. All to get ready for that first drive.
What we're going to do now is we're going to wait for the guns on that side to come out, and when I see them in place or I see a big flush, whichever comes first, I'm going to signal the start of the drive.
First drive, or the first beat as they refer to it here in Sweden, we accompanied the Gamekeeper Brian, who's Danish and a young man of an extraordinary ability, as I found out throughout the weekend. And our first shot, we were filming from a road across both sides of a large lake, and absolutely incredible. The volume of birds, the quality, by that I mean the height and strength and speed of these birds, truly wild. And I thought this is going to be challenging shooting, and I wasn't surprised. These birds are at least 30, 40 yards up, 100 feet, 120 feet up. That's impressive shooting. Those are no easy ducks coming into decoys. These are long passing shots.
Okay, 349 shots fired. Time to go to the next beat, I think.
That was a pretty impressive drive.
That was okay.
It was okay?
Yeah, okay.
It gets better than this? Let's go. I'll get the dust here.
We head to the historic city of Stockholm when Wingshooting the World continues. Stockholm is the capital city of Sweden. It's built on 14 islands and is often called the Venice of the North. It is also known as the capital of Scandinavia because of the number of foreign travelers it attracts. Stockholm history dates back to the 13th century. In the Old Town section, you can still find some of the architecture of that period. Because Sweden has not been in a war since 1520, there's been no destruction like in many other European cities. This is the Royal Palace, in the center of what is known as Old Town, an area of Stockholm with a distinct 17th century feel. That's because at the time, Sweden was known as a world military power, and numerous buildings were added, rebuilt, or extended. Many of those buildings remain to this day, and the streets still follow a medieval layout. To a wing shooter, Sweden means ducks, unlimited. Chris Batha is a guest of Klothstorp Estate in Katrineholm, about 2 hours southwest of Stockholm. Klothstorp prides itself on outstanding duck shoots under some amazing settings.
We have no bag limits in this country whatsoever. We have time limits, which means there are seasons, open and closed seasons. A normal bag here, I think you would expect maybe 500-600. I think that is a normal amount you can expect here.
Birds are supplemented into the wild bird population because of the large numbers shot. This happens especially in England, Hungary, Spain, and here in Sweden. This process, the birds are bred incubated from eggs into small chicks, and then brought along and through a natural process of release into the wild, through controlled habitat release, they then are released into the wetlands and over several months before being shot become truly wild, integrating themselves with the wild species that are already readily available. Later in the day, I had one of the most unique hunting experiences of my life. We went down to a large lake, and to facilitate the shooting, the lake was so large it built many pontoons across the water. The guns were ferried out to them on a small, what I'd call putt-putt boats with little seagull engines on, small dinghies. And there the guns were presented with some of the finest passing duck shooting I've ever seen. I mean, it was just absolutely extraordinary. The combination of light off the water and the sky and the guns high on these pontoons floating on the lake was just amazing to watch. That combined with the dog work, I have to say, you know, just unbelievable. I'd come back for that one drive on its own. You know, some of the perks of the jobs are I get to shoot with the best in the world, and this time I'm loading, or stuffing as we call it in England, Staffan Schulstrom. He's been the Swedish champion in 3 different clay disciplines and is one of the best game shots in Sweden. When I say stuffing, the good thing I got the cartridge bag ready. If I give the bag a good shake, the weight of the steel will bring the cartridges down so they all turn brass up. And I can just get a handful easily when we're loading in a hurry, and I can stuff the staffing. What can I say? Let's get to it. Let's kill some ducks.
It's very hard to describe, but to come to a shoot like this, it's absolutely fantastic.
Oh, fantastic shot, the first bird was superb, well taken. That's as good as it gets. Perfectly done.
Up next, managing an estate that is designed for ducks when Wingshooting the World returns. A day of shooting where a group of guns will drop more than 500 birds requires knowledge of the birds, the habitat, and most of all, conservation. Something that comes from a top-notch gamekeeper.
The major thing I do is conservation and simply making sure that others have the opportunity to shoot and that they have game to shoot at. We are obviously breeding and releasing quite an amount of birds here. Then on the other side we have made a lot of wetlands. I think we've made about 10 to 12 wetlands here over the past 7 years, which, I mean, they weren't there before. So you create a number of habitats for wildlife. Now, then you go out and put out a number of birds in those, but also plenty of other species benefit from these wetlands that we make.
That with the migratory, with the birds coming from the north with the cold weather, moving on down into southern Europe, topping up the released birds. There is a vast wing shooting experience. A very small population and a small number of people who participate in the hunting sports here mean that there really is a bumper opportunity for the visiting sportsman.
All of the shot game is taken care of by us, gathered, put in the cooling space of the refrigerator, a large, big style refrigerator, and it all goes to consumption from human consumption.
Oh my God, look at all those ducks. That is amazing. One of the most spectacular drives for myself and where I probably got the most shooting was where I accompanied Brian the keeper and I was a walking gun. All the other guns were in place and I made my way down following the keeper and we gently moved up into position. And that's only a small amount of them. We're just here at the back of what they'd call the sanctuary. We're not actually at the lake itself yet. I have to say that I've shot pretty much worldwide ducks from South America through a lot of Europe and in North America. To see this many ducks and the consistency of them is just incredible. It's one of the most magical experiences I've had duck shooting. After the first flush, you know, what are you going to do now? What happens now?
What we're going to do now is that we're going to start flushing with the dogs to drive up ducks in small portions so that we will have something to do for the next hour.
The next hour?
Hopefully.
Yeah, that's a duck shooter's heaven.
I'm glad to hear that. That was the general idea.
Just incredible. Just how they control it and how they manage it and maintain the drive, maintain the quality of the birds. And Brian the keeper was saying to me that almost half of the birds they put down survive and migrate south and go into Germany and so on, Hungary, and then they come back and come to this region, and so they're actually probably adding more ducks to the wild population than are actually shot. I've got to tell you, that was a great shot. I'm going to keep that for prosperity. I could have stopped shooting and just watched the birds, but I had some great shots. I had a wonderful time. What a great cartridge. I've got to say that steel does a lot better job than a lot of people think. That was a long shot. You know, that was killed dead in the air, and people say steel won't kill at the range. Well, these are getting the job done. The volume of birds at this drive was just incredible. I mean, thousands of ducks, and consistently kept coming, and more ducks coming, and more ducks, and I actually ran out of ammunition. And that's an incredible situation to have on any drive, and I always take more than enough. And this is the classic finish to probably the perfect duck hunt.
Stay tuned. More Wingshooting the World with Chris Batha when we return. With much of Sweden surrounded by water, it's no secret this is home to some wonderful waterfowl hunting.
I got to say, that was it's easy to be egotistical, but that was a great shot. You know, that's one that'll live in my memory. I'll take that one home with me.
Chris Batha is at Klosstorp Estate, about 2 hours southwest of Stockholm, to take in some of the fabulous duck hunting.
First established in the 1400s, it burnt down and was rebuilt in the 1700s, and was opened the second time in 1776, on the same day as America signed the Letter of Independence. So it has a pretty good pedigree. It's full of I can't believe history, both the family history and the history of Sweden. The owners, Jan and Cecilia, the most charming of hosts, and Jan is the most knowledgeable and interesting man on trivia and information on Sweden, and can keep you entertained for hours. And besides being a great wit, is a fantastic shot.
Well, this is one of the crown jewels of the area I wanted to show you. In fact, it's one of the 3 major hunting lodges in Sweden. There are one in the north of Sweden, one a bit west of here, but this is one that actually is a typical Swedish one, the way it's constructed, the colors chosen. We found the old hunting diaries with signatures of the king and things like that.
The King of Sweden?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So they obviously had a very nice time down here.
Had an incredible view as well. It's
fantastic,
stunning,
isn't it? Yes. Well, there are many estates in Sweden, must remember. Most of them have been broken up size-wise through history and through inheritance, but we have managed to keep our size at least since the beginning of the 1700s. When it comes to estates, yes, there are many, and maybe this one would be the 15th largest one in Sweden, something like that.
The guests that we're shooting with have come from all over Europe. There's Austrian, a German, and even a Scotsman present with us. I ain't going to say anything, some are princes and viscounts, but pretty high circles for somebody, a poor humble boy like me, to be mixing in. But every one of them is extremely charming, and some of the best shooting and best shots that I've seen for a long, long time.
Well, we have duck shoots in Austria as well, but the thing is here, we have an outstanding quality of duck here, and you have a fantastic sort of ambiance around. It's perfectly organized, the shoot, landscape is beautiful. The house is beautiful, everything is very well organized, amazing sort of dog work, it's a pleasure seeing the dogs. And it's just the whole thing comes together and makes a terrific day.
There's no aeroplanes flying over, there's no trains rattling by, and it's a very clean environment. Klastrup is beautiful, and so I'd have to put it right at the top of any duck experiences that I've ever had. On top of that, I must say the shooting's pretty testing.
Through a number of drives, Chris and the other shooters have taken a fair amount of ducks. But what awaits them is an example of why wing shooters flock to Sweden.
Later in the day we had a little rain. When it ended, we were entering the last drive. The light conditions after this rain were incredible, and the birds were streaming, absolutely streaming along, and the light reflecting off the bars on their wings and just catching the colour, and the volume and the number of birds was just extraordinary. I mean, a rainbow of birds. I can't describe it, you'd have to see it for yourself. I mean, it just makes you believe in God. At the end of the day shooting, it's incredible to see the ducks and the little flotillas and armadas all coming back into land and sanctuary, and the keepers and everyone is out there feeding them, looking after them, putting them to bed as such. It's just amazing. When you get together at the end of the day, the guns beat us, pick us up, you know, the camaraderie that's shown and the friendship, you know, that is something special that you don't get to feel or witness very often. When we look at the locations that we're going to visit during this series, I have to say that this needs, you know, to match it or to exceed it is going to be hard to do. This was a wonderful place to bring Wingshooting the World, and I thank our host very much.